Cool, so adhesion promoter, right? A few different options there. Some manufacturers like to put adhesion promoter by itself and have its own sort of process for that. Other companies, you'll find that the adhesion promoter is actually a two-part component within another vehicle, like a primer. For today's discussion, we're going to really kind of talk mostly through a standalone adhesion promoter. The reason why, and you can refer to your P-sheets for more detail around whatever product you're going to specifically use. P-sheets should be found on your computer or in the paint shop. Ask your manager or your paint rep. But adhesion promoter is really important because we're dealing with all sorts of different profiles on the substrates when we're painting, right? And one issue that we can have is efficiency issues. If we put coating on a surface that hasn't been properly treated, it doesn't have the adhesion promoter, there's nothing worse than painting something and then having the paint fall off as the car drives away, right? So, one thing to think through is bridging, right? So adhesion promoter will actually help us by reducing the likelihood for bridging. So if we think of the surface of our substrate as having kind of a profile to it, so there's some prongs like peaks and valleys, having an adhesion promoter helps really get the coating to kind of go through the peaks and valleys of the surface that we're going to apply to versus, the bridging effect where basically you coat it and it just kind of lays right on top. So today we're going to use this product and we're going to spray this bumper with adhesion promoter. You'll have to refer to your P-sheet to figure out how long. Traditionally in a standalone adhesion promoter, there is a dry time where you have to wait until you can apply any coating afterwards. So refer to your P-sheet for whatever dry times are necessary. Some adhesion promoters too actually require kind of a 2 or 3-step process where you're actually wiping, scuffing, all that. Also, key thing, make sure, particularly with bumpers, if you're going in the aftermarket route, some of them come from whatever aftermarket manufacturer you're getting pre-primed, and you'll notice if you wipe, if you put down the surface, you do a little quick test wipe, you'll notice that the primer comes off. So just heads up there, if you are using an adhesion promoter and all of a sudden there's this like black slimy mess, it was pre-primed, you're gonna have to clean it. Cool. So one thing I think it's worth mentioning, right? Where you're putting the hose, there is nothing worse than painting a panel and then jacking up the panel because the hose got in the way. One thing I learned early on was to put the hose behind you. You can grab it with one hand, spray with the other. Gives you a whole lot more control over the hose. So still on the same topic of cleaning, tack rags, excellent way to remove any kind of last minute dust particles. What I like to do with tack rags is I actually open it up, right? Funky material for sure. And then I like to crinkle it up. I just find that this gets all the nooks and crannies. It works better. The ridges, when it's folded, it's not doing you any favors. Crinkle it up like this. You'll thank me later. So what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna blow off the panel. So we've cleaned the panel. We're now gonna blow it off, then we're gonna go with the tack. There's no magic to this, just wipe down the panel. So fine line tape or skinny ass tape. What we're gonna do is we're actually gonna put the adhesion promoter on the panel first. And the thought behind that is if we put the fine line tape on now, then we put adhesion promoter on top, when we go to peel this thing back, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna get all sorts of weird little crinkly edges and it's gonna suck.